How would the United States respond if China were to invade Taiwan? Now, unfortunately, that question is changing very quickly. It's no longer a question of if, it really has become a question of when. China has made their intentions very clear. They want Taiwan to be part of mainland China. They want one country and one country only, no self-governed this, no self-governed that. They want Taiwan to be a province of China. Just like they want Hong Kong to be ruled by Beijing, just like they want the rest of the world eventually to be ruled from Beijing. But I digress. That's a topic for another day. The question at hand is, what would they do? What would the United States do if Taiwan were invaded? And the answer to that question really depends upon who's in the White House at the time, which is why this statement by CIA Director Burns is so ludicrous. Let's go to the story over at the Epoch Times. CIA chief warns of China's, quote, serious intent to invade Taiwan by 2027. According to the article, the United States is aware, as a matter of intelligence, the Chinese leader Xi Jinping has ordered his military to be prepared to invade Taiwan by 2027, CIA Director William Burns said on Thursday. Burns said that Xi's order to the Chinese Communist Party military may not represent his timeline for the CCP's invasion of Taiwan, but it demonstrates his seriousness in pursuing this goal. And here's a quote from Burns. Our assessment at CIA is that I wouldn't underestimate President Xi's ambitions with regards to China. Now, that's a ludicrous statement, not because it's not true, because nobody's questioning that at all. Nobody's underestimating what Xi Jinping wants to do with Taiwan. He's made it crystal clear. We didn't need the CIA director to come out and say, well, based upon all of our operatives in East Asia, we've determined that Xi Jinping really wants to go after Taiwan. Okay, that's just idiotic. Now, throwing out the 2027 number, it may be true from an intelligence perspective, but I don't think anybody's expecting him to wait that long. I think that at least most that I've spoken to, and I'm not a foreign affairs expert, I do have access to plenty, and the ones that I've spoken to have told me very specifically that Xi Jinping will want to invade Taiwan while Joe Biden is in office, preferably months before the 2024 election. That way, people will say, well, if he invades then that'll hurt Joe Biden, but that's not always the case. As a matter of fact, if anything, when there are foreign affairs that are influencing American policies, generally speaking, the American population will stick with an incumbent whenever possible. They don't want to see an administration change, not during a time of war or potential war. We saw this in 2004. I would say that John Kerry might have won had the Iraq War already been tied up and we were out of the Middle East at that point. George W. Bush was relatively unpopular at the time. And no, it wasn't just SWIFT votes, though that definitely had an effect for those who remember the 2004 election. Point being is that I would say that saying that 2027 is as a time for Xi Jinping to invade, I doubt it. I don't think they're going to wait that long. Okay, they want Taiwan, and they want to do it without interference from the United States. They don't want to see the type of aid that Ukraine's getting. They don't want to see that going to Taiwan. Now, I'm not saying that there would be. I'm definitely not saying there should be. But considering that Taiwan is more of an ally to the United States than Ukraine ever has been, it makes you wonder, how would we respond? Would we send as much? Now, granted, even though Taiwan is an ally and Ukraine is not an ally, reality is Ukraine has so much corruption and so much money laundering and weapons laundering ability that we have an interest there, whereas Taiwan is kind of like, we can't really do much there. And when I say we, I'm talking about the deep state. I'm talking about the powers that be. I'm talking about the Biden-Harris regime itself and other politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, by the way. There's a lot going on here. So how would we react if they do invade during the Biden-Harris regime's reign over the United States? Well, if you would look up in the skies of Montana, you probably get an idea of how we would react. And the answer is we wouldn't. We wouldn't do much. Maybe that's a good thing. I would say that might be a good thing because I'm not a big fan of getting involved in regional conflicts anywhere that don't involve us. But with that said, I would feel very poorly or very badly for the people of Taiwan. Then, of course, there's the whole Taiwan treaty thing that we would have to contend with. We'll talk about that if and when it comes. Let's hold off on that. But let's talk about these balloons. There's a balloon flying over Montana right now. This is a spy balloon. It's a big balloon. And what are we going to do? Well, I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to do what China would do if an American spy balloon were flying over China right now. Because if that were the case and they discovered it, it wouldn't be flying over China for very long. They would shoot it down, and then they would condemn us. What are we doing? Well, nothing. We're going to monitor. We're going to make sure that nothing's going to happen. That's what the military told Joe Biden to do, allegedly. Their reasoning, because it's such a big balloon that when it falls to the ground, it'll do major damage. It could hurt somebody, could kill somebody. Here's the thing. Here's how we know that that's a ludicrous statement. This is Montana we're talking about. Certainly, they can get some people at NASA together with a handful of calculators and figure out the best way to check the wind and check the trajectory and figure out where to fire from and how to fire and send up an F-22 and take it out. They could do that, and it would not hit anybody, and they can make absolutely certain of that. But they won't. They don't want to. They're going to leave it there. Why? Because they're weak. Because they're feckless. Because they don't want to antagonize China. Because China said, "Oh no, that's just for scientific experimentation. Don't react too harshly. We're sorry. Of course, I just didn't get to read the article, but there's a report that there's now a spy balloon that's been discovered by the Canadians too. Oops, another mistake, right? We'll see. The point is that how would we react to anything that actually has our interests in play? No, not at all. We won't react. Not with Biden and Harris in the White House. Not with even the feckless GOP having control over the House. They're not going to be able to do anything. They might say some things on Twitter, but there won't be anything that actually happens from that. Our airspace has been invaded by the Chinese Communist Party, and we're not going to do a damn thing about it. That should scare you as an American citizen. There's a reason Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, and the globalist elites want your life savings locked in IRAs and other portfolio management schemes that they control. They can keep your money tied up in woke ESG funds, even if doing so will lose you money. Patriots are quickly moving their investments to self-directed IRAs backed by physical precious metals. Unfortunately, most companies that work in this field are beholden to Democrats, the Chinese Communist Party, the WEF, and others who are pushing us toward a digital dollar. I've identified 3 precious metals companies that believe in America first. These companies make it easy for you to move your retirements and investment to a self-directed IRA backed by physical precious metals. Go to jdrucker.com/gold. That's jdrucker.com/gold.